Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, this is Jesse with the Common Nerd, bringing you pop culture and all things dirty through a common sense lens. And I, early on, all the way back on the old channel, before we got that one nuked, before we got this new one over here, so make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, especially if you're finding us from the old one. But I honestly came in when I got very, very excited when we heard that David Zaslav was taking over Warner Brothers Discovery, right? There was a lot of worries out there from inside of the Hollywood mainstreams that this guy was a conservative and he might change things and, he's just all about the money and yada, 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 yada. And I'm like, yes, thank you. That'd be really nice to actually see somebody that's interested in making the fans happy and actually making money and making a profit. And there was a lot of accusations about being him anti the agenda and stuff like that. Well, it turns out, ladies and gentlemen, that is indeed true after all, because boys and girls, as we had reported on the old channel, and we had talked about in the past, it's one Black Superman from Ta-Nehisi Coates and good old Jar Jar Abrams is canceled and will not be happening. And the best part is we get confirmation from the Wall Street Journal that David Zaslav himself reportedly said the script was too woke and was not going to allow it to happen. And ladies and gentlemen, it turns out he absolutely might indeed be the hero to save DC and actually give us good quality DC superhero movies and television shows again. Because as you can see over here from the headline at cosmicbook.news, David Zaslav saves us from woke Black Superman. And that is absolutely hilarious, boys and girls. And it's one of them situations. Should this surprise anybody, considering the fact that David Zaslav and the Warner Brothers literally scrapped a completely and totally done race-swapped Batgirl? They literally wrote it off for tax purposes instead of trying to release it and ever let it see the light of day? Of course, Zaslav was going to say no to this, especially written by such an activist as Ta-Nehisi Coates. I mean, this guy is literally the definition of a race hustler. This is the guy that looks for microaggressions and tries to find dragons everywhere. It is all about pushing an agenda. And thank the Lord in heaven, David Zaslav realized that woke does not sell in any way, shape, or form. And a Black Superman was going to do absolutely nothing but completely and totally bankrupt them at the box office. So we're going to check this article from cosmicbook.news and also jump over to thatparkplace.com because there's a fun little quote from James Gunn when he was asked about this a couple of years ago. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing, and we just crossed 2K. We're sailing our way towards 2,100, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, leave us a comment in the section down below. Let me know what you think about all of this. Does it surprise you at all that David Zaslav ended up actually indeed following through with purging a lot of the woke outside of the Warner Brothers Discovery? Or are you super angry and upset like a lot of the rest of the identity and politics obsessed folks out there, and you're sad that you're never going to get to see Ta-Nehisi Coates' version of a Black Superman set during the Civil Rights era? Let us know what you think about all that in the comment section down below. If you'd like to support the channel, please check out the links in the description and think about becoming a member. We certainly would appreciate it. All right, boys and girls, so this is one of them situations, too, because I sang the praises of David Zaslav earlier, right? He fired a lot of the people like Walter Hamada and a lot of the rest of the people. Well, not Walter Hamada, but I'm thinking comic books. But yeah, a lot of the rest of the guys inside of the Warner Brothers out there that were responsible for things like Birds of Prey and just like a bunch, and the fact that we never got a Henry Cavill sequel Superman movie. Like, these were the people that were responsible for that. If you want to get mad as to why you never saw Henry Cavill as Superman ever again outside of an end credit scene on Black Adam, you have the people that David Zaslav fired solely responsible for that. They did not want a strong male character. It's misogyny. We can't have a misogynist superhero movie. No, we have to have woman power like Birds of Prey. Yeah, how well did that work out for them? Those were the exact same people that were trying to convince people that the Black Ta-Nehisi Coates' Superman movie was a good idea. Thank the Lord in heaven, David Zaslav saw right through that BS. And it looks like he deserves all of the praise I was giving him right from the beginning. Thank you very much for that, my friend. Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav saved us all from the woke Black Superman movie that was in development from Jar Jar Abrams and writer Ta-Nehisi Coates. Let's just say activist Ta-Nehisi Coates. Let's just be completely honest here. In the Wall Street Journal's report on the Superman budget and box office goals and potential spinoffs, which we already know we're going to get a Supergirl movie. That one's already in the process of getting worked right now, and I cannot wait to see Jason Momoa as Lobo. I am a DC fanboy just a little bit, if you couldn't tell, boys and girls. The article goes over how DC lacked a single creative leader, unlike Marvel, which has Kevin Feige running the show. So when James Gunn and Peter Safran took over DC, various projects were canceled, including Wonder Woman 3. And I mean, after the disastrous dumpster fire that was Wonder Woman 2, and I mean, the essentially grape scene that happened in that movie between Wonder Woman, and a guy whose body has been possessed. Yeah, needless to say, there's a reason why the first one was so successful, and that's because the chick was surrounded by Zack Snyder's people telling her what to do. Yeah, the second one was all her. And yeah, 1984, we saw how that worked out, didn't we? Zaslav kills woke Black Superman script from Ta-Nehisi Coates. Among the tidbits is a mention of the Black Superman movie that was in development under Abrams and woke writer Ta-Nehisi Coates. And I mean, the Wall Street Journal literally buried this in one paragraph. That's why we didn't go over the Wall Street Journal article, because you have to go over a whole bunch of stuff, and it's not going to give you the background or the history behind the Black Superman movie or any of that kind of stuff. But literally, it's one of the things. It's a little blurb in here. It's just a little paragraph, but that's okay, because this paragraph alone, the fact that David Zaslav said the script is too woke and he didn't want to do it, dude, I guarantee you that is just like thatparkplace.com said, this is going to send off alarm bells all throughout Hollywood. These people, all this article does is confirm what all of these activists thought about David Zaslav, that he is absolutely anti-woke. He probably voted for Trump. He's essentially a Republican and a conservative, and he knows that this garbage agenda-driven stuff does not sell at the box office. Thus, Ta-Nehisi Coates' Black Superman is toast. The Wall Street Journal says Zaslav put a stop to the Black Superman movie because he felt it was too woke. Around the same time, in 2022, Zaslav was exploring how to fix DC. Thank the Lord in heaven he was. Can you start working on the comics? Although there are some runs that are getting much, much better. He dismissed as too woke a script being written by Ta-Nehisi Coates about a Black Superman in the civil rights era, according to people familiar with the matter. Now, given Wall Street Journal is not going to publish this without them verifying the people that they talk to actually work for Warner Brothers and are in Zaslav's sequel. But I mean, literally, that means that Zaslav said this script is too woke and I don't want anything about it. Zaslav 3 years ago in 2022 realized woke was not going to sell, which is why I think DC has a much better chance at succeeding than Marvel does in its current form. Because, I mean, did anybody see Ironheart, right? Fantastic Four is just going to be Wham and Power Sue Storm movie with a female Silver Surfer. I mean, are we expecting any better from Wonder Man or Avengers Doomsday for that matter at this point? I mean, seriously, what are you honestly looking forward to at this point in Marvel? I, for one, am super excited to see David Cornsweet as Superman next week, and when I would get a chance to go see it after con. Like, it's one of them situations where I'm excited I am cautiously optimistic about the future of the DC Universe. Creature Commandos was kind of meh. There was a lot of issues with it, far beyond any kind of identity politics. But I'm hearing pretty good things about Superman. But you know what we wouldn't have had or anything? It would have been the Ta-Nehisi Coates, Jar Jar Abrams, Black Superman would have literally done worse than Birds of Prey. It probably would have done worse than Elio did at the box office, boys and girls. So yeah, Zaslav clearly recognized what time it was, saw the giant elephant in the room, realized its name was woke, and was like, yeah, we ain't doing this garbage no more. We ain't doing this garbage no more. Gunn and Safran could still try to make the movie in the future. Some of the people have added. And that was one of the things we were going to jump over to That Park Place, but I can just tell you what it says. James Gunn was asked about this a while back, and he essentially said, I mean, it's still on the table. You know, we could do it as an Elseworld story, right? Which essentially means it's not going to happen, right? That's Hollywood speak for, well, I can't tell you that I'm never going to do a Black Superman movie, because then all of the headlines in the Hollywood trade magazines will write, James Gunn's a racist because he doesn't want to do a Black Superman movie. Like, that's literally why they have to speak like that. But no, this movie's done. If they canned the Black Batgirl movie, they are certainly not going to make a Black Batman movie. It is not going to work. It's never going to happen in any universe out there ever. And that is a beautiful thing that I think we could all be very happy to hear about. It's also worth noting that James Gunn's Superman isn't woke. And this is from Matt McGloin. He saw it and seen it twice already, boys and girls, once during the previews and then again on Thursday night. He has seen this movie twice already this week. Although it does explore political themes, which is not the same thing, right? What's my definition of woke, right? People ask me, what do you do? Yeah, that's always one of the troll comments you get on the videos, right? What do you mean by woke? This is what I mean by woke. When you sacrifice storytelling in order to push an agenda. It doesn't matter what political agenda. But it's mostly, the lefty nut jobs out there. But when you do to push a political agenda, that is woke. Because if you are willing to sacrifice all of your storytelling, if you're willing to sacrifice your box office, you're willing to sacrifice your TV ratings, you're willing to sacrifice your fans and your customers, if you're willing to sacrifice all of that and still push forward, even though despite all of the evidence that these storylines don't work and there is no modern audience to save you, then yes, it's absolutely woke. If your point is to use my favorite IP, whether it be Batman, Superman, Doctor Who, Marvel, if your goal is to use my favorite IP as a skin suit to push your agenda, that is woke. That's exactly what that is. And that's what they've done. Marvel's Ironheart alone was part of the Marvel Now initiative, which was nothing more than pushing a race-swapping, gender-swapping woke agenda. And it blew up in their faces, quite literally. None of those characters have runs anymore on their own because they simply don't sell. That's what happens when you sacrifice good storytelling for your own political agenda. You will always lose, and the audience doesn't want it. If they wanted politics, they would go watch the news. But they go to escapism, they go to comic books, they go to movies, they go to television shows to get away from all of that, to take a break from their personal problems. And when you interject all of this real-world nonsense in it, they're going to reject it. And now you have trained an entire audience, an entire fan base, an entire culture here in the West that if they even get the sniffles of it being wham power or woke or agenda-driven or anything like that, they're not going to show up. Don't believe me? Ask Lightyear. Okay? Ask Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves, right? Where the marketing was all, oh, it's so wham power, it's so gay, yada, 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 yada. Guess what? That was 2 years ago, 3 years ago in some cases. All lost money. Giant disasters at the box office. David Zaslav is the smartest man in Hollywood because he realized that and is making changes accordingly to course correct the path that Warner Brothers and DC had been going down. Let's just pray it trickles all the way down to the comics at some point. Zaslav made it a priority to get Superman right to launch the new DCU. Thank you. And it's clear he didn't want the character weighed down by that kind of wokeness that has destroyed Kevin Feige's MCU. I mean, look at the box office since Endgame for the MCU. Have they had more successes or more losses? It's pretty easy to tell that they've had a couple of hits, but the majority of it has lost them. They have lost billions of dollars. Marvel alone has lost billions of dollars over the last few years by pushing a woke agenda into their storytelling. It's failed miserably, and that's what they get. That's what they get. So in case you didn't know about the Black Superman movie, in case you didn't heard any of my old videos on this way back in the day, back on the old channel or over on the Rumble, the Black Superman movie was a project in development at Warner Brothers before the Warner Brothers Discovery merger happened. Led by Jar Jar Abrams and Ta-Nehisi Coates, it was intended to feature a black version of Superman separate from the mainline Clark Kent character. Jar Jar Abrams was attached as a producer through his bad reboot banner, part of his overall deal with Warner Brothers, because of course he did, because he attaches himself to absolutely anything. Notice how Jar Jar Abrams ain't working at Warner Brothers anymore either since a David Zaslav. Yeah, they've got a first look contract. But yeah, Jar Jar ain't getting no free meal over at Warner Brothers no more. Shout out to David Zaslav for that. Ta-Nehisi Coates, a writer known for political and race-related works. Yeah, and then exactly who you want writing a Superman movie? Yay! Was hired to write the script. Reports said Coates' takes was set during the civil rights era and would heavily feature racial themes. The movie was rumored to introduce a black version of Kal-El, still named Clark Kent, rather than using established black Superman characters like Val-Zod or Calvin Ellis from the comics. God forbid you do that. I mean, we could have got, I don't know, what was it? What did they call him? Steel? Right? Steel, the black Superman guy that came back in all the cool armor with the giant hammer after the death of Superman? Give me that. Give me that. I'll watch that all day and twice on Sunday. Give me a good version of that. That would be dope. That would be so dope. Actors rumored to suggest for the role include Michael B. Jordan, though Jordan was reportedly developing his own separate Black Superman project focused on Val-Zod for HBO Max. That project was unrelated to Coates' script. Obviously, that's not going to happen either. Jordan rejected the idea of a race-swap Clark Kent Superman. Good job, Michael B. Jordan. And cyborg actor Ray Fisher also rejected the Black Superman. And shout out to Ray Fisher. Hashtag justice for Fisher. Dude, yes, I'm so glad. That was such a good move on him. Because guess what? He actually knows the characters. The idea was controversial with fans. Controversial? How about universally hated, with the exception of the ideological nut jobs out there that claim to be fans of DC, who criticized it as race swapping the iconic Christopher Reeve Superman rather than developing existing black heroes. Many felt it was a lazy attempt at diversity instead of creating original stories or spotlighting established black characters. And then, amen. They're all of us, we were all right about this. And David Zaslav was right to cancel this. He was right to make sure that this did not happen, because all of this, I mean, Warner Brothers is already broke, right? Like, they are already desperate. Like, they're basically going, hey, you know what? If Superman makes $500 million, we're going to call that a win. They're not even looking for it to make a profit. They're just looking for it not to bankrupt them at this point, right? And it's like one of them situations where this was just going to be another one of those projects that probably would have cost Warner Brothers hundreds of millions of dollars, all for it to turn into a giant, massive flop at the box office. So yeah, it was woke. Yeah, David Zaslav does understand that. And you know what, boys and girls, that makes me happy to hear. As a DC fanboy, I want good DC again. I want good Superman. I want good Batman. I want good John Constantine. I want good Zatanna. I want good Swamp Thing. I want good all of it. Give it all to me. Pipe it right into my veins. Give it to me. And it looks like, fortunately enough, at least to some degree, David Zaslav absolutely understands why Kevin Feige's Marvel has failed. Because it decided to dance with the devil. It decided to chase this non-existent modern audience, all while lying to themselves that everybody would be okay with this, and that anybody that wasn't was either an ist or a phobe. And guess what? The majority of the audience was just like them. Well, it turns out that completely and totally blew up in their faces. The majority of the audience is not like them. The majority of the audience does not want to have politics interjected into every single piece of material and media that they consume. They don't want that. They want good quality stories that represent the characters and the IPs that they have known and loved for generations. And boys and girls, it looks like by some miracle of God on high, thank the Lord in heaven for this, David Zaslav, the head of DC, the actual head of DC, understands this and recognizes this. Whether or not the quality of DC will actually be good or not going forward, only time will tell. But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, we can at least take heart to know that DC, under Zaslav's leadership and James Gunn, at least will not be woke. And that's going to make all of the right people mad. Bye-bye, Black Superman.